I'm just asking the question. I'm not saying this. Is Will Kassouf the actual worst? Is he the worst?
I wouldn't think that's a fair question. Is Will Kassouf the Antichrist? Is a more reasonable question.
Is he Beelzebub? Is that what he is?
Risen.
I think that's a fair question.
No,
yeah,
he's not that.
This
He's
is a
not the
question that
absolute
everybody
worst.
at their dining room table is asking these days.
Yeah.
Little Sally in Ohio is like, Daddy, is the bad Will Kassouf going to come and talk to me until I die? Like, what?
If you don't do your homework,
Kassouf's going to show up.
That's why I left, because I know my people needed me. Diamond in the rough, I don't know what it is they see in me. Go down as a legend in my city, because we beat the streets, trying to spread the wealth around.
For those of you who are somehow watching the Poker Guys and don't know what's going on with Will Kassouf, I don't know where you've been, but Will Kassouf made a big splash for many years, but this year especially at the main event where he made his second deep run, and he was unbearable. He was truly unbearable, and to call him a polarizing figure is generous, because that implies that there's another side, that there's a side that defends Will Kassouf. And I think at times there was, even through this saga. I think day 6 was the day he got eliminated. On day 5, there were pros defending him still. There was Brandon Cantu tweet where he was like, I will defend Will Kassouf. I know that this might be like an unpopular take, but I think he's good for the game. I think we should allow this type of thing. And then the next day, the day 6, when Kassouf was by far worse, Brandon Cantu recanted. He was like, he's indefensible. I can't defend this guy.
and just to be clear for people, let's just outline some of the things Kassouf was doing. So it's really, really clear. Like basically every single time it was his action, Kassouf would go into, as he's been known to do for many years now, but go into sort of some level of monologue before acting.
You happy one? You happy one? This is it. This is your final warning. I'm coming for all of you now. Every single one of you. You're all going to get it. Every hand. Every single hand, you're going to get it. Call the clock. Blah, blah, clap, clap, blah, blah, clap, clap. Like echo, like Paris.
And
even
so,
with terrible hands that he was never going to play.
Right. And so it effectively worked as stalling, right?
Yeah.
And he would take 30 seconds to a minute to act most of the time, to the point where, and I remember saying this as day 1 and day 2 coverage was going on. I was watching at the poker room as it was going on, saying to everyone at my table, I would literally call the clock on this guy every single time it's his action immediately, just from what he's doing. And no one was doing it in day 1 and day 2. But as they got further into the tournament, the players are more experienced. The players are more calm. They probably talked about it with their friends. And then that was happening. And the WSOP agreed, right? The World Series of Poker put him on a 10-second shot clock for every single decision, which may be a little harsh. Maybe we can talk about that. But so he was talking nonstop and taking forever. It's one thing to talk nonstop. It's another thing to take forever on every decision, which he did, no matter what the decision was, even in spots where he 100% wasn't calling, where he's always folding, which we watched him do. And just, I watched him play like a 15-minute hand, which just had no business being that long. And most of it was his fault, And he's also kind of a slightly unruly, extremely annoying presence at the table. And the things that he says are the same 12 to 20 phrases over and over and over again versus just talking a lot. Like Tony G talks a lot. Mike Matusow talks a lot. And I don't know that I want to be at Mike Matusow's table either, but at least Mike Matusow, it's different every time.
Mike Matusow is a breath of fresh air. Mike Matusow is 25-year-old Halle Berry compared to Will Kassouf. He is. I would love to hang out with Mike Matusow after hanging out with Will Kassouf. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, you're like, I don't know. People could be this great.
Yeah, I don't know, man. So I saw a tweet from Adam Hendricks, who made the final table. He said it doesn't really bother me or the other players at the table that he does all of this shit talking. Whatever, that's fine. I think the WSOP should probably allow that. It's really the stalling. That's the thing. 40 plus seconds per decision, even with hands that he's not going to play. And that was the number that Hendricks put on it. And that sucks, especially in a tournament with multiple tables. You're not getting the hands in, right? If you're short stacked, that sucks. If you think you have an edge over your table, you're just not getting as much of an edge. It sucks. Right. It's awful. And also you have to deal with this guy. And by the way, no headphones allowed at this point in the tournament. So you can't even cancel him out. So that's pretty rough.
Yeah. Watching Kassouf do his thing, and not just at the table with the players, but there's many clips on YouTube, which I've watched a lot of, and are pretty incredible to watch, of him talking to the floor, talking to security at the WSOP, and sort of this nonstop, literally just never stops talking, no matter what is said to him, no matter the situation, just keeps repeating the same things, keeps asking for clarification, keeps saying he just wants to make his case and no one's listening to him. And they listen to him for quite a while, but he just keeps saying the same, 60-second monologue, and they don't agree with it. And he's acting like he's not even getting a chance to be heard, and he can't believe it. And this is outrageous. And he does it over and over and continuously over. And it is wild it almost looks clinical to me, honestly, as somebody who has a background in that.
How can a logical person go about life like this? Like, you're such an aggrieved party. Wouldn't you think that every poker tournament would have like many people in your case if the tournament directors are so unfair in general, right? Wouldn't there always be so many aggrieved parties that are, maybe he thinks they're just silent, they're just silently taking it because they're the real troopers who can, stall for 40 seconds every hand.
He's the brave one.
The majority of the coverage, if not all of it, that I have seen has been on silent because I've been watching it in a poker room where they don't have the volume on.
Yeah.
And that's enough. I don't need to hear him. It's infuriating just to watch him gesticulate and stall and argue with the hand and see him have king 5 offsuit with 13 big blinds under the gun, and somehow it takes him a minute and a half to fold while he talks, goes over to the rail, talks to the floor about something before making a decision. It's absurd. So all of this to say something. It feels like something needs to be done. It feels like there's a collective sigh of relief when something bad happens to Kassouf in the poker community. Like, I don't know about where you were when Kassouf was eliminated. I was at a poker room, and of course the room erupted in cheers. And I'm pretty sure that happened all around the world in every poker room. Like,
I would guess so. And every home in the world, every workplace. Yeah. Okay, so we've established that Kassouf is really, as a player and as a viewer, Kassouf is annoying and not something we want to see, right? We were glad to see him limited. However, a few things. Number one, ESPN chose to put him at the feature table day after day after day. So ESPN doesn't have to do that. We don't have to be aware of his presence, but they're like, this guy brings in viewership, right? Because there's a villain aspect to him.
It was Poker Go, not ESPN.
Okay, you're right, not ESPN. That's fair. But still, they chose it day after day, and there's a reason why, right? Because they think that drives viewership, and I would guess they're right. Because the truth is, I did watch a bunch of Kassouf videos on my own, not to make this video with you. Just after he was eliminated, I was like, let's go back and get into it. And watching him do all that was fascinating and crazy. Now, I don't want to watch him play poker over, for a long period of time. I think if I was at the table, it'd be very hard not to be furious, furious.
It's not the same thing, but the majority of takes I see online about Stephen A. Smith are negative, right? Stephen A. Smith is a basketball and sometimes other sports analyst for ESPN. He's their highest paid talent, and pretty much everybody I know despises him. He just screams and yells and has inane takes that don't make any sense, but he drives viewership. Even people who don't like him watch him, kind of like you watching Kassouf, right? It's a similar thing. I think that's probably what Poker Go is thinking with this. And it's an interesting business decision, and there's two prongs kind of facing each other for how this goes, because there's the tournament being run, and then there's the coverage of the tournament, and those are separate things, right? They work together, but those are not the same entity. So the World Series has to deal with Kassouf, and Poker Go has to deal with Kassouf. And the way Poker Go chooses to deal with Kassouf is to put him on the feature table, which is a reasonable business decision.
Yes. I think it
sets a bad precedent. It sets a bad precedent and a bad example for future poker players if people think this is some way to behave. Although he was reprimanded so intensely that maybe it's not going to go that way.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
But people will see it, and some people will take up the flag of Kassouf and do shit like that. Probably.
Yeah, a little bit for a while.
So the tournament, the World Series, just has to deal with it, right? They understand that Poker Go is going to put him on the feature table, and that's not their concern. Their concern is how to deal with Kassouf. And does he rise to the level of affecting the game and the action that he deserves to be reprimanded in an official way that will affect his expected value in the tournament? That's a big question. That's what a lot of pros were kind of fighting back on. They were like, I get that he's annoying, but maybe this is unfair.
There were 3 or 4 different things, sort of punishments that I'm aware of anyway, and maybe there were more because this went on for days. but that I'm aware of happening. And I think it's worthy to ask the question, does the punishment fit the crime in each situation? So first they gave him, I don't know about first, but early on, like day 4 or 5, they gave him a 30-second shot clock at some point, right? Because people were calling the clock every time, and he was milking it every time. And at some point, they're like, that's it, you got 30 seconds, right? And then at least according to Will Kassouf, so that happened at the end of the day. And the next day, according to him, I don't know how reliable a reporter this guy is, but then he went to Jack Effel or one of the floors and said, okay, can we go back to normal now? Because the day is over, and we're like, because it's the next morning. It's like, now that we're starting a new day, can I go back to not having a shot clock? And they actually, according to Will, they said, no, now you're on a 10-second shot clock. I wonder if it really went exactly that way, but there's no way for me to know. But then they dropped him down to a 10-second shot clock, which he was on, I believe, essentially for the rest of the tournament, where every single decision was 10 seconds, which is pretty extreme in the World Series. That's one of the most extreme things I've ever seen, maybe the most extreme thing I've ever seen, besides just kicking somebody out. So that's the second thing that they did, more extreme. They certainly gave him a penalty once in a while. Like there was that time he gets up because he claimed he couldn't see the guy's chips, so he left his seat, moved to the other side of the dealer, was staring at the guy's chips. He said as he got up, I'm not folding. He moved around the dealer. He didn't get in the other player's face or anything like that. He was looking at the guy's chips, and the floor called his hand dead in the middle of a hand, which seemed pretty extreme to me, I have to say. And then also, they have now kicked him out for the rest of the 2025 World Series of Poker, which is not a big deal. There's almost no events left anyway, but they did kick him out for that. And I guess it's at least open-ended of what they're going to do for the future. Like they may continue to ban him. So those are all the punishments that I'm aware of anyway. What do you think about these different punishments? Do you think all of them are justified? Do you think none of them are justified, or what in between?
He also got at least a 1 orbit penalty, at least one time.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that was for arguing with the floor and stalling and not like listening to the floor, basically.
He definitely did get. I can remember one of the 1 orbit penalties. He was saying whatever it was for. He was saying it should have been a 1-hand or 3-hand penalty, not a full orbit. And in the arguing of that, I think got himself more in trouble because that's who he is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was that too. So what do you think about these different punishments? How many of them do you think were correct, if as a governing body? Come play with us on Clubs Poker. They have tournaments, they have ring games, and a 100% bonus if you use the code POKERGUYS or use our link in the description.
It is a lot of fun on Clubs. I have been playing on Clubs, and I have been genuinely impressed by their software. They have great games all the time, and redemptions go direct to your bank account. There's no crypto involved, none of that BS. It's a US-based company. Come play with us on Clubs. We'll see you there. I don't know if I can assess them individually, but I can look at it from a 1,000-foot view, and I think it's a slippery slope. I think I understand why pros are slightly irked by the penalties, because at any individual circumstance, you might want the penalty to be applied to this person in particular because he's pissing you the fuck off and he's hurting the tournament in this exact moment. But we don't want a precedent to be set where the floor is handing out penalties too freely, right? So I think that that is the slippery slope that you can end up on because what happened with Jamie Gold was we lost talking in poker, right? Like I feel like we slipped all the way down that slope and now we lost talking in poker, and that kind of sucks. Kassouf is pushing that boundary back in a far less charming way than Jamie Gold by a lot. So I think that the concern is that we end up with more authoritarian floor rulings in general and a more quick hair trigger floor, like as a general rule around flooring around tournaments. And that would be a really negative impact of this. At the same point, when you see the individual case, you're just like, no, fuck that guy. Do something to him. Like ruin him. Yeah. Do something. make him hurt. Okay. I get it.
So I just want to react to some of the things you're saying already. First of all, these are human beings, right? The floor, Jack Effel and company. Yeah. And there's no reason for them necessarily to be harsher towards everybody else with their hair trigger stuff just because they're doing it with Will Kassouf, right?
Right. I'm just wondering about if the floodgates get opened a little bit.
The line gets moved perhaps slightly, but only probably slightly. And actually, if it curbs this type of behavior, there's at least a case to be made that being a little bit more intense with it maybe is good for the game. That's one thought. Another thing I've just been thinking about is the 10-second rule seems pretty intense to me. Not so much pre-flop, where like Will Kassouf's been in every pre-flop situation many times at this point. He's been playing for a very long time. So he can take a long time if he wants to, but he could essentially in almost every pre-flop situation be able to act within 10 seconds, and it wouldn't be a problem for him. Now, maybe there's a few where that actually isn't true, and I would hope if he somehow made the final 10 of the World Series and we're on the actual main event final table bubble and someone moved in on him, pre-flop even, that he would be given more than 10 seconds to decide. You know, I would hope they would do that. I don't know if they would, because they just, at some point, they got a little intense about it. To me, as the hand gets deeper, meaning like we get to flop, turn, and river, those decisions get exponential. The pots get bigger. More of your stack is potentially in play, most of the time anyway. Like, I don't know how reasonable it is to give him 10 seconds on a river decision every single time. Now, we can't know, as the floor, you can't know what his cards are, right?
Yeah.
So you can't say like, well, this time he's stalling and this time he isn't. You need to have something more uniform. But I think if indeed they were only giving it, now this is again, Kassouf was claiming it was 10 seconds every decision. The World Series wasn't commenting on it one way or the other. But if that's really true, I would hope that they were trying to pay attention to what was going on in the hand and give context to it at least. And the floor wasn't always instantly giving him 10 seconds if it was a big river decision. You know, if he gets raised on the river, I would hope they would give him at least a minute to decide or 2 minutes to decide in a big spot like that. You know, getting raised on the river is a huge spot. Now, once in a while he may have nothing and just takes 2 minutes to tank, but that's a spot unlike pre-flop where almost all the time he's just folding anyway. You know, at least it's a reasonable thing to give him a little bit of time. I would hope that we could do that instead of just being like a computer and being like, it's 10 seconds and nothing else matters, you know? So that to me was something which felt a little bit problematic. Also, I will say, watching the floor deal with him, and I understand it must be unbelievably frustrating to deal with him. I've already said,
I can't imagine.
I've already said I would be furious if I was even just at the table, let alone being a floor. But you can feel their impatience as they're dealing with him, you know? And that is something that they need to work on. Like, they're allowed to be impatient, but there's a professionalism which none of them are able to maintain around him, which is that's slightly problematic. That's not really what you want.
They're going to need a lot of Xanax, because just watching it without sound was truly giving me anxiety, and I'm not an anxious person. Just like the way his arms move, his gesticulation every time, not even looking at his fucking cards, not even looking at what the turn card is before talking to the floor about something else, before making a decision on every street. I know. I understand wanting to be hyper punitive, and maybe they felt like they were being generous. Like they instead of considering DQing him, they were giving him less time. You know,
that's fair. Also, he has an unbelievably long track record of doing this. Right. I remember first seeing Will Kassouf in the EPT with playing a hand against Vanessa Stelpst. This is like 2009 or 2010 or something like that, and he was doing the same stuff back then too. So he has an extremely long record of doing this behavior, right? And so they know it's not going to change. And so I can understand also where they're like you said, it's a miracle we're not throwing this guy out. And eventually they finally did. They clearly decided like, all right, once this guy's eliminated, we're done with him, right? We can't kick him out of the main event. It's too late to do that. And they were right. They cannot kick him out. Like, the fact that Jack Effel threatened to have him removed from the building with security if Will Kassouf followed him, I guess he didn't say we're going to throw you out of the tournament. He just said, I'm going to remove you from the building. So actually that's like giving him a penalty in some ways, right? Like a 2-round penalty or a 5-round penalty or something, which I guess that's reasonable. I would like it if they could somehow keep their cool a little more, but I understand that that's hard with this guy. Maybe let's get to the biggest question with this part of it in terms of penalties. So they banned him for the rest of this World Series. Do you think they should ban him going forward from the World Series?
I think no. I want them to, but my emotional brain says yes, but my logical brain says no. I don't think anything he did rises to the level of a ban. He was not violent. He didn't threaten anybody.
Right. He called people names.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, he should be on a short leash. I think individual history should matter. I think the World Series doesn't have to look at every discrete tournament as like, oh, this is a new person. They can have history with them and know what they're capable of and have them on a shorter leash. I think that's fair. I think
absolutely.
I don't think anything he did rises to the level of a complete ban, but I do think that if the behavior continues after this reprimand, and let's say next year he's in multiple events and the entire table every time is like, I am losing expected value sitting at this table with Will Kassouf because of the amount of time it's taking. This is actually affecting other players at this point, right? And it was affecting other players. So I think if he continues to do this after having been warned so many times, I think they would be in the right to ban him if he continues to do it again. But I don't think yet. What do you think?
I certainly don't think you can ban him from future World Series events. Like this year is fine, but like banning him from next year's entire WSOP seems too much. When you can, as you're saying, as he comes into and sits down, you can have one of the floors say, "Hey, Will, welcome back. We're glad to have you. I just want to let you know that if people start calling the clock on you repeatedly, we're going to have a much shorter leash with you based on your history, and we're going to be quicker to give you penalties." They probably have already had this discussion with them a million times. Yeah. Quicker to give you penalties, quicker to disqualify you. All that stuff is going to happen really quickly, just so you know that, and we're going to be on the lookout for it. Like you get special treatment. So I just want you to know that. We hope you have a great series. We hope we don't have to do any of this, but if it goes this way, it goes this way. And of course, everyone knows it will go that way, right? Like for sure, he's not going to change.
Maybe the way to do it is to tell him like, all right, so basically every tournament that you enter, if you're pre-money, we reserve the right to DQ you and refund your buy-in for behavior at any time. And so if that happens a couple times, maybe his behavior actually changes.
Maybe, I mean, when he's got a lot of chips, it changes. When he's really short stacked, it may get worse because he's trying to get DQ'd, to get his money back.
That's
I don't
true.
know.
That's
like
true. That's a
it
good
sets
point.
up weird incentives. It's a good try, but I don't know. I mean, I guess them just reserving the right to disqualify him though would mean when he's got chips, then at least they could punish. They could threaten the punishment. It's really hard to kick someone out who's like one of the 5 chip leaders in the room. As you're 300, 500 people away from the money or wherever you are, to literally DQ them from the tournament and refund their money. That feels like you're sort of stealing from them. Like if you're going to do that, don't let them play.
That's what happened to Ali Imsirovic, right? Pretty recently.
It is what happened to Ali. Now that's because he's a cheater, but they did wait before they did it, which we felt was incorrect. We did a video on that, right? We said like they either can't let him play or once you let him play, you have to live with it. You let him play. It's on you, not on him. He showed up. That's okay. He didn't pretend to be somebody else. Oh, man, Will Kassouf. Yeah, I don't ever want to see him at the World Series, but I don't think he should be disqualified or banned from the World Series either. Like, I think he should be allowed to play also. I think they shouldn't put him on the feature table just for all our own sakes. But this leads to the Poker Go problem, right? Which is we want people to watch the poker, and most of the poker is unbelievably boring, especially when we're live streaming it. And Will Kassouf, while being infuriating, is not boring at all. And there's so few guys like this.
This is the Stephen A. Smith thing, right? Like it's poker has a problem right now that people have been talking about for years now, which is the robotification of the game, where not only is the play of the game being dictated at the highest levels by what robots tell you to do. Many of the best players rely on that to play a certain way instead of the old school Doyle's going to read you and understand what you're doing better than you understand what he's doing. That was cooler than the robots, right? But the robotic actions of the players, the Vogelsangs of the world, is the pinnacle example of that. So I understand that, like, as an entity that makes the content, you need something to counter that. It's just unfortunate that the salve happens to be Will Kassouf in this case, because the cure is worse than the disease situation.
It does feel like that. I agree with you. I mean, there are very few. There are villains in poker, right? We've had villains for a while. Phil Hellmuth, at least a fair amount of the time, has been a version of a poker villain. A lot of people root for him too, but he's, I would say overall, like he's like in some ways the best poker villain, right? He's whiny. You love to hate him. It's hard. You want to watch him because you hope he busts, but he doesn't do anything except that one time when he threatened to burn down the Rio. He doesn't do anything that ever He's like polite and chill almost always. He's a great poker villain in all the ways you'd really want him to be. I think Tony G.
He has outbursts, right, which is exciting and fun, but he doesn't delay for 15 to 40 seconds every single decision. Like, it's
No,
different.
he really cares about all that stuff being correct. Like, he really cares about the integrity of the game. And I'm not saying Will Kassouf is trying. Will Smith.
Yeah.
But Will Kassouf went up that time when Will Kassouf
when he hit
slapped
Chris
Rock
yeah.
at the Oscars.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Will Kassouf doesn't care, is trying to cheat the game. I don't know that he is. Although he does have history, not of cheating in poker, but of other things in terms of integrity, which we may talk about also, like stealing money at roulette, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a huge surprise that he has a scummy thing on his record, right? Like, the thing in question is in 2018, he was playing roulette with some friends. And they were like betting the same numbers or whatever, and they were having a good time, according to somebody who was a witness to the situation. And Kassouf just pocketed some $100 chips that weren't his. He just stole them, and
from his friends, right?
Yeah, from his. I mean, if he has friends, whatever, people he was with at the time.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And like he made a big apology about it, but he didn't explicitly mention that he had taken the chips. He said mistakes were made. He lost sponsorship with whatever poker site was a thing then, Grosvenor Poker, which I don't think is a thing anymore.
I don't know.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, he's like, he attributed it to being drunk, but I've been drunk lots of times. Do you think I would ever steal $100 chips from people?
Of course.
Like, yeah.
Of course.
It speaks
it's
to
not
his
great.
character. It speaks to his character.
And this is the one time he was caught doing it, but it's very unlikely it's the only time he's ever done it, right? Like the time you catch someone. So it does speak to his character. We don't know if he's still doing anything like that, though, and I don't want to say he's still that guy, but who knows? And I guess ultimately I'm saying, like, I don't think he's trying to break the integrity of the game. I think he's a lawyer, and he's trying to push the boundaries of the law as far as humanly possible, right? Without going necessarily outside the law. I think at least that's what I see him doing. But what I really see, and the thing which is tough to watch, is this: when he deals with the players or the floor or the dealer or security at WSOP as they're kicking him out, he does the same. I just want to explain myself. I'm not really being listened to. No one can hear me. No, I just want to understand. But why? And it's like, and you're a parent, Grant. You know, there are times where children will just say why no matter what you say. And it will never end, right? And I had a parent, because I used to work with families and kids. I had a parent one time who learned to say to his child, when the kid just kept saying why, because of the second law of thermodynamics. And that, for some reason, would shut his kid up. Like, the kid would be like, oh, and like would stop asking the why questions after that. But that's what it feels like with Will Kassouf. There's no answer that's ever going to get him to stop, right? There's no solution to this. And he's just going to browbeat you into insanity with his words. Like, that's what it feels like is the game.
Watching him. I feel like watching him is making me go insane. So I think we can ask a couple questions to finish this up. I think the most important question is Will Kassouf good for poker?
I think the answer has to be no. Even though he may get a little more viewership, even though we get to make content about it right now, because my God, we have to talk about this. Like you and I would talk about it either way, right? We just happen to be filming it. I don't think he's good for poker at all. I think it's going to encourage, to some degree, either more people acting this way, or, as you were saying, floors and tournament directors to be more punitive and more intense about it, and with a quicker hair trigger. I think it's not fun to watch. I think it's not fun to be around. I don't see how it's good for poker.
I agree. I think it's good for Poker Go. I don't think it's good for poker. Like,
that's right. Well said.
Cause like with your Helmuth example, I've heard many people say, like, I hate Helmuth. I want to play with him. I want to bust that fucking guy. You know, I want to and that brings people to the game, right? It makes people want to play the game, want to like fight their villains in the game, that anybody can play against anybody. That's cool. That's a great thing about poker. I don't think anybody's watching Will Kassouf and saying, I want to go play with that guy. People want to play with Helmuth. They want to play with Tony G, right? That's fun.
Absolutely.
That's a cool idea. I don't want to be in the same fucking state as
Zip
Will
code.
Kassouf. Like, I want to be gone if he's there. I don't want Will Kassouf near me. And I think that's the experience that a lot of viewers have. And I think a lot of the people who watch Stephen A. Smith on ESPN don't want to have dinner with him and talk basketball. I think they just want to watch him rage bait them and have some hopefully reasonable person on the other side agree with the reasonable take and take Stephen A. Smith down. I think that's what they're hoping to. They don't want to see Stephen A. Smith in person and talk to him, just like you don't want to play poker with Will Kassouf. You want to see Kenny Hallert bust Will Kassouf when he calls with King 5. That's what you want to see. You don't want to be the guy there doing it. You just want to see Will Kassouf in pain. That's all you want. So I don't think it's good for poker, because I think things that are good for poker bring new players to the game. Moneymaker, obviously the best example. If Leo Margetts wins this year, that might be not as good as Moneymaker, but pretty good.
But
as far
it could
as
be really good.
Bringing people to the game. But Will Kassouf does not bring people to the game. Will Kassouf makes people think that's interesting to watch for a few minutes. I do not want to play poker if people like that play poker. No, thank you.
Right.
I'm
I
good
think
at my day job. Not interested in playing poker if I have to deal with that shit.
Will Kassouf also, all the things we're talking about, I mentioned a little bit of him calling people names, but it got worse and worse as the days went on, as far as I could tell. I mean, I guess I wasn't watching and listening to everything because I couldn't, because I wouldn't want to. I mean, I refused to. But at the end, he was really saying, it sounded like some crazy stuff to me. He was saying, near the end anyway, he was saying thousands of players are going to boycott the World Series of Poker because they've seen how I've been treated. He said that. And I'm like, I think no one will boycott the world. 5 people maybe, no one else. When Kenny Howard busted him, he really sort of went crazy, complaining about Kenny Howard opening with King 5 suited and calling his shove, his 8-blind shove, after Kenny Howard had already opened with King 5 suited. Of course, it'd be a joke to fold. Kenny Howard also had a lot of chips, and it was an easy call. It's like an auto call there. If you don't love it, you just call anyway. That's it. And he said, you're pathetic to Kenny Howard. Really went after him. And Kenny Howard is a super chill, quiet, easygoing dude, as far as I can tell.
Also, probably the best tournament player remaining. He's got 20 million in online earnings.
I would take Michael Mizrachi over him for sure.
It's close, I think,
and probably Adam Hendricks too. But he's certainly, and maybe even Leo Margetts. But he's certainly a very good tournament player in the main event. Right, this is his 3rd deep run. It's super impressive.
Yeah, but anyway, you know his online record. He's one of the best online players in the world.
I did not know that. Really?
Yeah.
Kenny Hallert.
Yes.
I had no idea.
He might be the best tournament player in the.
Wow, that is amazing. Oh, good for him. Good for him. I just thought he was a guy who had that big deep run back and made the final table back in the day, and then figured something out about the main event. But
no, he's
more
super
than
legit.
That. Good for him. Okay, cool. Okay, fine. But the point is, for Will Kassouf to say that, he didn't say it oh man, you called me with King 5. Geez, I think you could have folded that. I don't know. Remember when JRB got called by that guy with 9-10 off?
Yeah.
When he's like,
bye-bye.
I like the call, sir, but no, yeah, right. But he's like, sir, I like the call, but I'm not sure mathematically if that's really the call there. He said it with his laughing, and it was funny, and he was and he's saying because he was afraid of getting knocked out, and you felt all of that. We're there with JRB,
Right.
JRB is our proxy as humans in these places. And Will Kassouf is the opposite. Will Kassouf is just in that spot. I'm not saying he was this way the whole way, but mean and weird and out of his mind. Saying how dare you call me with King 5 suited when I shove for 8 blinds after you already opened. How you're pathetic, you're horrible, you're not this, you're not that. All that. It's crazy talk. Absolutely crazy talk. It's weird.
Yep. So all right. Good riddance to him, though. I mean, ultimately, I never want to see him again on TV or in person. I'm done. I don't expect that to be the case. I don't think the World Series should ban him yet for all future events. I think that should be an open door, though. I regret for humanity the state of media that Will Kassouf is necessary for.
It's just poker media. Let's not make it about humanity. Come on.
I mean, I'm the Stephen A. Smith example I'm going to bring up again. Look at news. Look at what this has been going on for a while. The Jon
Kassouf
Stewart
is not like
on,
those other things. Kassouf is not even like Stephen A. Smith at all.
No,
it's a different thing. Come on,
it is different. It is different. You're right. But rage drives clicks. Is I guess the long view on it.
I mean, you just want people to feel something. It doesn't have to be rage. You just want people to feel something. It's easier to provoke anger or rather than provoke love. It's harder to get people to love you, right? Because everyone wants you to love them, and everyone's trying to do that all the time. Going the other direction is easier. But yeah, Kassouf is different, and I think it really is important to say he's not. I think he's trying to get under his opponent's skin, for sure. And I think that's a perfectly legitimate strategy. Like, people get upset. Tony G did this. He did it extremely well. People play worse, right? I get that. That's totally fair. But you can do that without making everything take so long, without saying people are pathetic. Although you can even keep calling people pathetic. That's like good poker villain stuff, I guess. There's just a mania to it all, which, again, feels a little clinical to me, honestly. With someone with this background, I feel I can say that. I'm not just like speaking out of school here.
Yeah.
And I would never want to be at this guy's table, and I never want to watch him again. I was really thrilled that he was kicked off. I hope he's never on TV again, but as you said, I'm sure he will be. I want to see the Tony G's of the world on TV. I want to see, God help me, I want to see the Phil Hellmuths of the world on TV. Even though Phil Hellmuth drives me crazy in his own way, I like watching Phil Hellmuth play because I like watching other people go after him and make him look dumb and all that. Like, that's kind of wonderful. But watching Will Kassouf make a bad laydown doesn't give me any joy. I just want him to be out of the tournament as fast as possible so I don't have to watch this shit anymore.
I mean, it's crazy how Kassouf is the big story of the main event when we have one of the most interesting final tables of all time of the main event. We have the first woman since Barbara Enright 30 years ago to make the final table, and she has reasonable chip stack. We have Michael Mizrachi making the main event final table for the second time, having won the PPC 4 times. By the way, the other year that he made the main event final table, he also won the PPC. What a crazy thing that is. The chip leader is a moneymaker type everyman guy. Like, that's interesting too. Like, that's cool. There's a lot of cool stories at the final table remaining. There's Kenny Hallert. He's a tried and true pro. Adam Hendricks, tried and true pro. Like, there's legitimately cool main event final table stuff going on, and we're talking about Kassouf, which is interesting.
Okay, we are, but that's going to go away. So the main event starts today. Like, we're recording this on Tuesday morning. The final table starts today. I believe the Kassouf stuff will start to fade away once the main event final table starts, and it will just be a forgotten thing in the past. Not too different, really, than the cheating scandal at the Millionaire Maker final table, which now feels like years ago to me.
Yeah.
Compared, the Kassouf stuff just replaced it in my, like, that part of my brain of, like, things to be maybe concerned about, outraged about, thinking about the World Series, right? And I think this final table is extraordinary. It's very exciting. I'm personally rooting for the Grinder or Leo Margetts to win. I think I'm rooting for the Grinder. But either way, like, wow, what an incredible final table. We usually get 9 guys we've never heard of. Somehow we know lots of these people, and there's a lot of, like, good for the game spots. I mean, Leo Margetts would be incredible for the game if she won. I think the Grinder winning would be pretty extraordinary. The everyman thing is pretty cool too. I mean, Leo Margetts is the one where things might actually change in poker. Nothing else changes, but still, it's fun. I mean, Adam Hendricks winning would be pretty cool too, right? Like, getting the longtime pro to win. Like, you don't see that very often. Get that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. So that's good.
Yeah.
Let's move on from Kassouf. Let's collectively all do it. Let's deep
I'm
breath
ready.
in, deep breath out. Let's get rid of this guy. He's like a toxic algae in our bloodstream. And we have to clear it. So let's do that.
We've achieved closure with this podcast / video. It is now done. I release us all from the Kassouf of it.
I feel so much better.
It does. Just breathe it out.
It's a bright, sunshiny day. Let's watch the final table. Let's enjoy it.
But here I come, pushing to the limit, I can't go no more. Red light, nowhere, I'm coming back home. Long dirt road, all on my own. I'ma be the greatest, write my name in the stone. Write my name in the stone. Yeah, I'm coming back.